Yeah, I got to tell you, yesterday was frustrating. And listen, it was due to happen because we've been scalding hot for so long, but very close yesterday to having a very, very good day. Let's go through it. Butler easily beating Georgetown 16-18, most second half. DJ Davis goes down with 12 minutes left. And I could just feel that cover coming from Georgetown. And it still took Ismail Mizzou to make 2 free throws with like 13 seconds left to get us there. So that one hurt. Anytime you lose a double overtime underdog pick, like Michigan getting 3.5 against Florida, that certainly is a bad beat. And then outside of that, Indiana State doesn't show up till the second half when things finally click and they blow the doors off. And Troy versus Ole Miss with the Scott Cross. Here's the argument. Troy played well in that game in the first half, but they weren't scoring. The score was like 8-6, 7 minutes in. Like, that's their opportunity. They're going to have to score, but they would miss threes and the turnovers. It happens. We have regression. No problem. Back again today. Undaunted, folks, as we're ready to rock and roll. Remember, we're going to come to you today. We'll be live here at 10:30 on Saturday with Justin Perry, who'll be here from Shot Quality. Really excited to have him on. We're having some guests here, getting you on across the board, people that you're interested in the industry. I'm going to have our Frank Brank, our Matt Josephs, Mike Kutry. We'll have so many people on here eventually who will give you picks. I'm looking forward to that. We are down to 90 days until March 19th. Very excited. And the show's still doing well. Don't forget, 7946 over the last, I think it is 6 shows now, maybe 6 shows. That certainly is nothing to sneeze at. Here we go, folks. Let's get into it. Make sure to put the comments in. I'll get to the games if you have questions as we go through it. Radford versus West Virginia. Now, the center of this pick is the fact that Jesse Edwards is now no longer available to them because of the injury. They don't have a lot of depth inside. Now, people are going to question this because they're going to say Raekwon Battle is now healthy. They're going to say that Kirk Kriisa played in the last game and did well against UMass. Here's the issue. Radford is a very solid team. They're good on defense. They control the pace. And I am not so sure Jesse Edwards, who was pretty much the go-to guy here for West Virginia for most of the year, 7-footer inside, making jumpers, almost covered against Virginia, by the way. I am not so sure they can just adjust without that. They're probably going to get better. The guards are going to get acclimated. They're going to go to a 5-guard alignment. I get that. I just think Radford is really strong. Radford covered against North Carolina for us the first game of the year. Radford is 9-4. Radford has won 4 in a row. Radford has won 7 of the last 8. Radford is great from three-point range, shooting 38.3%. Radford is solid on defense. They're top 100 in Ken Palm adjusted defensive efficiency. This number is going the other way. They've also had bad luck with teams shooting 74% from the free throw line against them. I like Radford. I like them to control the pace. I know the game is at West Virginia. I know Kriisa is back. He played against UMass. I know Battle is going to play for Montana State. I understand that. No Jesse Edwards makes a big, big difference to me. I am taking Radford plus 7.5. I don't normally go with Oklahoma State, but I do like them in today's matchup against Wofford. Oklahoma State has been better their last couple games, and I like teams that are showing improvement and getting hot, and that's what Oklahoma State is. They are great on the defensive boards. They are great at defending inside. And Wofford, if you're going to beat them, is going to have to shoot well from 3. And I've yet to see that from Wofford this year. They're adjusting. Wofford doesn't turn you over. Wofford doesn't make their free throws. We go back to that over and over again. A team on the road, we want them to make free throws. And look what Oklahoma State has done over the last 2 games for Mike Boynton. They beat Tulsa, a pretty good Tulsa team, by 15 on a neutral. That was a good matchup in Oklahoma City. Then they beat Oral Roberts at home by 21. Oral Roberts is a better team than Wofford, and they beat them comfortably. I think they show up here. There's no look-ahead spot. They have South Carolina State and Chicago State. They don't get into the Big 12 schedule until January. So there's no game on the horizon. They have been making free throws, but they're coming off an Oral Roberts game where they were scalding hot, 40 of 30 from three-point range. Oklahoma State's going to play defense under Mike Boynton. You know that. If they score, they usually cover. So I don't like Oklahoma State, but I am taking them tonight here against Wofford. I get very nervous with this 5.5 line. If you've watched the show, you know that 5.5 is a number that makes me nervous when you're on the road. I just think Longwood is the better team here. Longwood has the nation's longest active winning streak at 12 straight games. Griff Aldrich does a great job with Longwood. They are great at forcing turnovers also, which should be key against North Carolina Central. They have won 12 straight games. They're 12-1. They had wins over Delaware State in 2 overtimes. They beat Milwaukee. They beat VMI. So they haven't really played the greatest caliber opponent, but North Carolina Central is not the greatest caliber of opponent. And you've seen North Carolina Central now. Yes, they're home, but they were home. They lost to USC Upstate. They were home and they ended up playing Virginia Lynchburg and Mid-Atlantic Christian. So they really haven't played teams that are very solid. So now you're telling me that North Carolina Central is going to end the nation's longest winning streak despite shooting 26% from three-point range and despite only making free throws at a 66% clip and despite being horrific on the boards. I get it. This is probably frisky. It's probably North Carolina Central up 1 at the half or something ridiculous like that. But I do think Longwood eventually turns them over too much, pulls away, and gets the win. Not one of my top plays, but one that I certainly like today. North Carolina State minus 12.5 against St. Louis. North Carolina State at this point has always found a way to score big at home. And I think they score big here as well. North Carolina State has the big man inside, DJ Burns, and you've seen St. Louis. They have not been impressive to me whatsoever. So I like this team today. I like the points that North Carolina State's going to put up. I think it's going to be very solid. No problem with that. You look at the upcoming schedule with games that are coming up for them with NC State. They're 7-3 on the year. They have Detroit Mercy coming up before they start the ACC schedule. I think teams in the non-conference can often be flat, as you saw with Notre Dame there, when they have a game coming up and they're about to get into the conference. St. Louis is not that good. NC State doesn't turn the ball over. NC State has the ability to score big, and they can do it. I think at home, they normally play very well. Their last few games at home that they have played this year so far, 84, 87, 93, 81. There is no way they're not scoring 80 tonight. And the question is, can St. Louis get to 70? I don't think they can. I am taking NC State minus the 12.5. This was one that was interesting, and I looked at it both ways, but I'm flipping on it here. California has been better under Mark Madsen, but they are playing a UC San Diego team that no one wants to talk about, the Tritons. UC San Diego just had a huge benefit from Tyler McGee. The transfer here, used to play Western Carolina, just got eligible because of all that transfer nonsense and pumped in 22 points in their win over Sacramento State. He was 6 of 13 from three-point range. Now, listen, Sacramento State is not the caliber of California, but that's a big addition here that we're not talking about. So California, who is playing much better, and Mark Madsen does a very nice job, but their next game on Friday, next Friday, is Arizona home. California's been terrible at defending the three. California's been terrible at turning teams over. California's offensive metrics aren't great. They're strong on the boards because that's a player Madsen was when he was in the NBA with the Lakers. He's strong on the boards. I like UC San Diego here getting 8.5. You may be able to get 9.5 in some places because I think they're going to be able to score. And I like the addition that no one is talking about McKee. I don't believe in Jeff Capel. I didn't believe in him last year, and I certainly don't believe in him this year. I think they're in a spot right here against Purdue Fort Wayne that's very iffy. They've won their last 3 games. They won West Virginia away. They beat Canisius at home, but they didn't cover. South Carolina State, good win. Here comes Purdue Fort Wayne, a Purdue Fort Wayne team that has John Kaufman, who is a veteran coach, a Purdue Fort Wayne team that is 11-1 this year. Purdue Fort Wayne has beat DePaul. No one's impressed with DePaul. That's still a bigger school. They played San Francisco. They lost that one away, but they beat Oakland away 98-77. That is a good Oakland Greg Campy team that can be frisky. They pounded them and put up 98. I think they score here. They're shooting 39.5% from three-point range. That's top 15 in the country. They don't turn the ball over. They force a ton of turnovers. This is a classic sleepy spot for Pittsburgh here. No one is betting the Mastadoons. And what do you have with Pittsburgh coming up on Saturday, December 30th? They start the ACC schedule against Syracuse. 3 wins in a row. Not getting exciting for Purdue Fort Wayne. A good Purdue Fort Wayne team. This game, folks, reeks of Citadel Notre Dame from last night, which we got to the window comfortably on. Like Purdue Fort Wayne getting 14 points. Ryder stinks. Ryder absolutely stinks. I've seen enough of Ryder. Kevin Baggett, a little trouble there, really struggling. 2-8 this year. They just lost away at Monmouth. Now they're going to Delaware. They're one of the worst teams in the country at three-point shooting. They're one of the worst teams in the country in effective offense per KenPom. They're one of the worst teams in the country at shooting free throws. And now they're going against a Delaware team under Martin Inglesby, who's pretty good at home. And they've only played 2 games so far at home. Most of their games have been away and on a neutral. But this is a team last year that was very solid at home, that can be very competitive. They beat Davidson at home. They beat Siena, who was pretty good last year at home. They beat Princeton away. This team can be pretty good at home, and they were very good once they got in the CEA schedule last year at home. I like the Blue Hens. They've been solid here on offense. They can score it. They don't turn the ball over, and they play well at home. Jair Davis is a fantastic player. Don't like Ryder. Don't see the motivation. I'm taking Delaware minus 10.5. Keep those comments coming, and we'll get to them as soon as possible. Wyoming versus South Dakota State. This is one of these games that you got to be careful because this game's going to be in a neutral. So we have Wyoming here in a neutral against South Dakota State, which is in El Paso, Texas. Interesting stat that I found here. First of all, Jeff Linder is a phenomenal coach. Secondly, they're top 40 in the country of forcing turnovers. Third, they are shooting 40% from three-point range and 77% from the free throw line. Very good fundamental team in Wyoming. Also, teams against Jeff Linder's Wyoming Cowboys are shooting the absolute best that is possible among all 362 Division I teams. 82.5% they're shooting. How about some negative regression there? We have South Dakota State on the other side, shooting only 65.6% from the free throw line. They are terrible at defending the three, which is bad news against Wyoming. They are not great on the boards. South Dakota State now on a neutral in El Paso. I usually like to take the better team in the neutral setting, and I'm going to do that here. This line is dropping. I got it at 5.5. When I set up the show, it was 5. It may be down to 4.5. You want to go money line, I have no problem with it. I like Wyoming here. Again, unless somebody is ruled out. We had that last night with Cincinnati, which was very annoying. After the show, 2 key bench players ruled out for Cincinnati. Of course, they can't cover, but we can't control that. That's going to happen here. So I like Wyoming in this matchup. I'll go with Dayton minus 11.5 against Oakland. Oakland is not at full strength, and Dayton is very good at home. Deron Holmes should be really good in this matchup. Oakland's going to throw the zone at them, but Dayton is shooting 40.1% from three-point range. That's top 10 in the nation. They play at a very slow pace, so the covers are always frisky. Oakland is coming off Michigan State, which is very tough. This is a rough run for them. They played Eastern Michigan away. Nice win for Oakland. They played Michigan State. That's a very physical game. They lost that one away. Now they go Dayton away. Then they start the Horizon League schedule away at Cleveland State, which is a very physical team. This is just a tough run for Campy's squad. Love Oakland. Love the Grizzlies. Love Campy, who's been there for 40 years. Does a fantastic job. I just think this is a tricky spot here. And again, Oakland is a team that is not at full strength, looking to make sure that they get all their players back healthy. I just think this is a weird spot. This one is not comfortable, and I get it. Whenever you're talking about a matchup within the league, whenever you're talking about going on the road, we took Marquette last night. We took Providence last night against Marquette. They were led from start to finish. I have just seen Seton Hall multiple times, and they have not looked good to me. I've attended the Seton Hall games. You saw that. I put that on X out there. They just don't look good. So I get that, like, this is a spot, and the number opened at 10, and people thought it was crazy, and you want to say it's a letdown spot for Connecticut. Okay, everything together. They're not great on offense. They don't force a lot of turnovers. They're not great on the defensive boards. They lost at home to Rutgers by 7. They got crushed away by Baylor. They lost in a neutral 13 to Iowa, who plays 0 defense. USC in a neutral, they lost by 12. They've been king of the little people. You want to beat St. Peter's, you want to beat Fairleigh Dickinson, you want to beat Albany, you want to beat Wagner, you want to beat Northeastern, but not cover. I get that. I just know I'm not impressed. And they did beat Monmouth at home, didn't cover. And then they played Missouri in a semi-away, and they won that game as well, but they gave up 87 points. I think Connecticut is much better. I understand if you don't like it because you're going to say it's Big East and I don't want to lay that many points. I understand that. People don't want to lay points with UConn playing Gonzaga in a semi-neutral site in Washington either. How'd that game turn out? UConn is very good. They're number 1 in the country at 64% inside the arc. They're number 5 at defending inside the arc. Seton Hall is not a great three-point shooting team, so they're going to have to score. They score 35% of their points, Seton Hall, from inside the arc. They only score 22.4% of their points from outside the arc. 58% inside the arc, that's 35th in the country. Only 22% from outside the arc, that's 330th. So they have to score inside. That is the strength of the UConn defense. I don't get it. I don't see it. I know the line is dropping, and if you don't want to lay that many points in a Big East game, I have no problem with you. I'm going to lay it, and I'm going with it. Am I shocked by this one? Do I really have to? Do I have to give you like a big detail on why we're fading here? Don't believe in Mike White. Don't believe he can cover big numbers. Yes, Georgia's 7-3. They didn't cover against High Point. They did have the winning of the Georgia Tech because that was a rivalry game. But Mike White's teams, they're great inside the arc, but they do struggle to score. Mount St. Mary's has been a little flammable, and Mount St. Mary's is very aggressive. They can force turnovers. They can get up and down the floor. They played Georgetown away. They played Maryland away. They played Mississippi away and covered. They lost by 9. So they've played some quality teams, Mount St. Mary's. They are not going to be nervous today playing against Georgia. That's certainly not an issue. And I don't like Mike White. And there are teams here, if you look at teams against the spread, we've done pretty well so far at teams that we like to fade. Teams that we came into the year fading, we've adjusted and we're down on UNC Asheville. They are 1-7-1 against the spread. Siena, we faded them with Cornell last night. That was a comfortable cover. They've been terrible, 2-9 against the spread. DePaul's horrific, 2-7-1 against the spread. I've had issue with San Diego State. They're only 2-7 against the spread. Middle Tennessee, when they're not home, 3-8 against the spread. Loyola Chicago, who we hate, 3-8 against the spread. Maryland, Kevin Willard, 3-8 against the spread. So this is another team here that we're nervous that we just don't like. I will take the points here with Mount St. Mary's. Would not be surprised to see late movement go on Mount St. Mary's against Georgia here. Stay with me on this one. Right now, it's a no pick, but I have to tell you, I may take Toledo because Vermont is reminding me of Virginia. We got the Virginia game wrong last night because we didn't like the matchup. But what's happening here is teams like Virginia and teams like Vermont just don't have the offense. They don't have enough offense. And that was the factor last night. Sure, Virginia plays great defense, but they have to continue to find ways to score, and they can't. Ryan Dunn cannot score consistently enough. He can't. Reese Beekman is not a 30-point per game scorer. That's not who he is. We know that. That is the problem. And they're not super great on the boards either, and they can't make their free throws. Vermont looks a notch below where they normally are. Do we love John Becker? Yes, my partner Gus on the Screener podcast. We've interviewed John Becker 3 or 4 times. He's a great coach and a better person. But Vermont here, struggling against Colgate at home, struggling against Virginia Tech, got their doors blown off. Yale at home, they shouldn't have won that game. Dartmouth, they didn't cover. Bradley away, they lost, which doesn't look great right now. Liberty, they lost by 10. They just don't look to be the same Vermont team as normal. Is it a no pick right now? Yes. Could it beat Toledo by the time the game tips off? 1,000% yes. Terrible. They don't force turnovers. Terrible on the offensive boards. They play at a slow pace. If Toledo gets up 10, the game is over. Just like you saw last night when Memphis gets up in Virginia, the game is over. They are not structured to come back. Vermont needs to stay within +5, -5 the entire time in these games. And the question is, do you think they can do it against Toledo? Toledo's defense is not good. Toledo's offense is spectacular. So right now, no pick, but I'm leaning Toledo. I believe in St. John's the entire year. I don't believe in Xavier. I think you have a coach that's doing a good job there with Xavier, and I believe in what Sean Miller is doing, but they did lose 3 straight games to Oakland, Houston, and Delaware at home. That's not good. Now they're playing St. John's. This is the first game in the Big East. St. John's is going to be fired up, and be careful here. St. John's did lose to Boston College, which is catastrophic, even though it's my alma mater. But I think they've righted the ship. And that Rick Pitino has proven over his career that teams get better. I think they're ready tonight for Xavier. It's a very close game. It opened at 3.5. It got up to 6. It's now down to 5.5. I'm going to lay the points here. Xavier at home is different than Xavier on the road. They played one true road game this year, Xavier on the road. One. They played Purdue away, and they lost by 12. They have not played a true road game. I think St. John's is fired up tonight. The game is home, this matchup. This game is in Carneseca Arena, which is always an advantage at home. I like Pitino. They're great on the offensive boards. I think they get it done. I'm not scared of this one. They have a game coming up away at Connecticut, which I understand, but the first game of the Big East is not going to be a game that they're going to overlook. We should have got the Butler one last night, if not for an injury. And if we don't get an injury tonight, I think St. John's gets this one done. A lot of people on Duke here. Okay, that's fine. I'm going to go with Baylor. I like Baylor. Baylor had looked fantastic until their recent loss. They look very strong. They lost to Michigan State by 24 points away. Now they're playing Duke on a neutral. The game is in New York, in MSG. Fantastic. Everyone is on Duke. Everyone is on Duke in this game. It's Duke. They're going to bounce back. I don't know about that. I'll take Scott Drew over John Shire. I'll take the fact that Baylor's bigs are going to limit Kyle Filipowski, who's able to dominate Hofstra, but struggle against Charlotte and struggle against Georgia Tech. I'll take my chances. Now, I'm pretty sure that Proctor's going to be back. That's great. Proctor's a wonderful player. It's fantastic. I just can't believe you give me 3.5 points. If this game gets up to 4, that's fine. Duke has not proven to me in any way, shape, or form that on a neutral court, they should be favored by 3.5 or 4 points over Baylor. I don't see it. People always bet Duke. They love Duke. I haven't seen this. In fact, I haven't seen it over the last couple of years with Duke, even when Coach K was there. I believe in Scott Drew. I like this Baylor team. Baylor's defense is always going to show up. They're fantastic at limiting opposing teams from three-point range, holding opponents to under 30% from three-point range. And that's going to be a problem for Duke, who likes to score it. Duke doesn't turn the ball over, and Proctor is fantastic, but Baylor is also relentless on the offensive boards. And Baylor right now is shooting 44.6% from three-point range. I know it's due for regression. A team is that scalding hot, shooting almost 45% from three-point range. It's due for regression. This game's not in Cameron. This game's in Madison Square Garden. I'll take them with the points here. Belmont's good. Belmont's really good at home. And we were very fortunate with our Arkansas State game against Louisville recently. We're very happy about that. But Belmont is coming off a loss away at Samford. They're starting the Missouri Valley Conference schedule very soon. They're also shooting 39% on the year from three-point range. And at home, they're shooting a lot better. They played home against Valparaiso. They won. They played home against Lipscomb. They won. They played home against Georgia State. They won. Now, those games have been close. But Arkansas State doesn't turn you over. Arkansas State is only 67% from the free throw line. Arkansas State doesn't shoot really well. Arkansas State has won 2 games in a row. They've beaten UAB. They've beaten Louisville. I think Belmont gets a shooting right tonight, and I think they roll. UMBC stinks. UMBC stinks. I have watched UMBC. They like to push the pace. They like to get up and down the floor. So you're telling me that we're going into Iowa, an Iowa team that is going to need this win to right the ship because they have not played well lately. They lost to Purdue. They lost to Iowa State. They lost to Michigan State. They did bounce back on a neutral against Florida A&M. So now they're home. They're 0-2 here in the Big Ten. So they have 2 games coming up to get things right against UMBC and Northern Illinois, rather. They're playing UMBC, who is inferior in terms of talent, who is terrible at turnovers. UMBC is terrible at turning the ball over, and they don't turn you over, and they're not great from the free throw line. And they're really not great on offense. They just like to play at a fast pace. So you're going to go into Iowa, play at a fast pace against Iowa at home. Really? This has 40-point loss written all over it. This has Iowa winning this game by 40. I got them here. I also got them on the first half line. And again, our first half line has not been great, so tread lightly here. We lost that one with Indiana State. I like Iowa in this game. UMBC has no talent. They cannot score. They have struggled all year. UMBC lost to Morgan State, lost at home to Towson by 16, lost away at St. Peter's. They lost to Coppin State away by 19. Do you know how bad Coppin State is? Did you see Coppin State against Georgetown? I mean, just traveling, can't dribble the ball. Don't see it. Iowa here, 30-point win. And you know I don't like laying big numbers, but I will do it here. I'm absolutely done with Liberty. Forget Liberty. I have no interest in Liberty whatsoever. Everything is dependent on the road, that they have to make threes. And on the road, I just don't think it's going to happen. Liberty had their nice win this year. The only one I've really been fired up about is when they beat Vermont. But as it turns out, Vermont wasn't very good. They got the doors blown off by Florida Atlantic, who plays zero defense whatsoever. They have Charleston. They lose by 9. They bounce back and they beat Mississippi Valley State at home. But they have not played they played one true road game all year, one Liberty, and that was Florida Atlantic, and they lost by 25 points. I'm fine with this Utah Valley team with Todd Phillips. They had 2 really tough games recently against Oregon State and Utah, but those are high-quality opponents. Liberty's going to have to shoot well. Actually, Utah State is pretty good at defending the 3. They generate 39% of their points, Liberty, from beyond the arc. That is a nightmare. They're not shooting their free throws well, only making 67%. So here's a Liberty team that plays at a slow pace, that's playing only their second true road game of the year at Utah Valley, where they have to shoot the 3 well, where Utah Valley is actually pretty good at defending the 3, and they don't make free throws. I'm done with Liberty. Give me Utah Valley plus 5.5. Unpopular pick warning. Unpopular pick warning. Went on VSiN yesterday. They tried to get me sponsored for the pink grapefruit juice. I hope that happens. Unpopular pick warning. At this point in the year, everyone likes to fade teams that are undefeated because they want to think of parity. They want to think of regression. And normally that's a really good way to go. Here's the problem. Porter Moser is a much better coach than Hubert Davis. Significantly better. I know this game is in Charlotte, so it's a pseudo home game for North Carolina. I don't care. Oklahoma beat Arkansas. Oklahoma beat Providence. They have not played a true road game yet this year. This is not a true road game. It's a semi-away game. I don't trust North Carolina. They have lost 2 straight games to Connecticut and Kentucky. So I certainly understand that the Tar Heels are going to come out today with a lot of fire and a lot of aggression with Armando Bacot and Harrison Ingram and RJ Davis and Cormac Ryan in the corner for 3. I understand that. If this game gets out of the first 5 minutes and it's still close, I'll feel very confident about it. I like this Oklahoma team. Porter Moser is a great X's and O's coach. They are great defensively. They hold opponents to 25% from three-point range. They are great on the boards. They're great on the offensive boards. They're great on the defensive boards. And their interior offense, the movement that Porter Mosier has on offense, is going to pick apart North Carolina. I'm taking Oklahoma +3. I'm surprised this line got to this point. Look, if North Carolina comes out and starts making 5 or 6 3-pointers to start the game, we may have to just hit live line and try to get back some of our profits. I don't think it's going to happen. I believe in Oklahoma. I understand that we just saw this with Baylor, and Baylor got their doors blown off by Michigan State. I don't think Tom Izzo and Hubert Davis are comparable. I don't think the guard play of Michigan State, which was due to regress to positively from three-point range, is comparable to what we have here with North Carolina. RJ Davis is a solid player. Armando Bacot is soft. Harris Ingram is really good and probably the best all-around player they have, but he can come in and out. I am taking Oklahoma +3. Would I lay 3? No, I wouldn't lay 3, but I'll take 3 in what I think is a coin flip game. This was a tough one. This is a really tough one because Creighton can't stop anyone off the dribble. We know that. We've seen that. The problem is I think Villanova stinks, and they don't have Justin Moore in this game. Rothstein confirmed that he's going to be out. So a lot of people don't like it. And this, you may have liked it when it opened around 6.5, may have been a better line. I don't like Villanova. They did beat UCLA. UCLA stinks, guys. UCLA is not good. UCLA now, as much as Cronin is all upset and he's making fun of players on Villanova, like Tyler Burton playing for Richmond, which was a cheap shot, they've lost now 4 of their last 5, UCLA. Now you're playing a Villanova team who is going to Creighton for the Big East opener. So you're going to get maximum effort from Villanova, no Justin Moore, but you're also going to get maximum effort from Creighton. Now, Villanova does make their free throws, but they play at a very slow pace. Do you know that Villanova is allowing opponents 36% from three-point range? That's 300th in the country, 300th. That's not good against a team that generates 41% of their points from beyond the arc. I'm taking Creighton here. They're great at defending the 3. They're great inside the arc. Kalkbrenner is a little soft. I get it, but I'm going to lay the points here with Creighton. If Villanova was fully healthy, would I be concerned? Maybe. But the way that you're going to beat Creighton is you have to be physical with them inside. You have to beat them off the dribble, and you have to guard the 3. I don't know if Villanova is that physical anymore. I don't know if they can attack the basket regularly without Justin Moore. And I don't know if they can guard the 3. Check. Thank you very much. I've been impressed with San Jose State. This is an interesting one. Santa Clara's Christoph Tilley is out for tonight's game per Herb Sendek. He's averaging about 9 points and 5 rebounds. At the same way, San Jose State's Adrame Diongu is also questionable for tonight's game. He's averaging 5 and 5. So both teams are a little banged up, but I like San Jose State here. I've been impressed with what they've done with Tim Miles. They're doing pretty well in their statistics per KenPom. They're good inside the arc. They're good at shooting threes. They don't turn the ball over, and they've been competitive at home. I like them here. Santa Clara, of course, very solid under Herb Sendek, but they did lose away at California by 15. They lost on the neutral in New Mexico. They got buried. They lost at home to Utah State. That was a rough loss. They were winning that game, and they beat Washington State on a neutral. It's just too many points. I think it's a coin flip game. I like San Jose State. A team I've been really impressed with is Seattle. I see the comments piling up. I will get to them right after this game, I promise. Games are piling up here, and I'm seeing Seattle, a team that I really like. I have tracked Seattle this year from the WAC, and they've actually done very, very well. They had 2 rough losses recently, away to San Francisco and the Washington game at home, which they should not have lost here, lost that game in double overtime. Otherwise, they've been fairly competitive. Away at VCU, only lost by 4, played really well. The UC San Diego team, who I mentioned, they beat them by 12 points, which was a solid win, and now they're home against Louisiana Tech. Louisiana Tech, in their road games this year, lost to Colorado State, lost to New Mexico, lost to St. Louis, and St. Louis is abysmal. I like Seattle here at home. Louisiana Tech struggles to score. They're bad from the free throw line. They're bad from inside the arc, and they don't force a lot of turnovers. So before I get to the last one, the big game here, Arizona, Alabama, let's see where your comments are. Let's go through it here. Thank you so much for all these comments. My goodness. Trevor, let's go. Radford, the little brother angle. Yeah, I get it. Radford is always tough on the road. No one knows about Radford. They don't know where they are. Virginia, by the way. Jesse Edwards out 4 to 6 weeks. I'm not on it. Is Vermont +5, Brian, an overreaction after losing to 2 good teams? Here's my problem. I don't think they can score consistently. I don't think they have enough players that can beat you off the dribble. So they have to be so solid fundamentally and so solid on the boards that they can overcome the fact that they don't have a player that can score. Remember, Dylan Penn used to be on Vermont. He can get in the gaps. They don't have that this year. So I just don't see how they can score. Was liking, the San Diego's been hot lately. Yes, Trevor, they've been hot lately as well. I've been on the size. Yeah, the size advantage is different for Pittsburgh, but that works the other way, Trevor, because Purdue Fort Wayne can also get up and down the floor and they can run Federico right off the court there. So I get it. I don't like Jeff Capel. So, when I go in against Jeff Capel or some of these other coaches, I tend to look for a reason, but I also think Purdue Fort Wayne can score. And that's the big advantage here. Let's see here. Yep. I mentioned this one, Austin. I think Iowa blows them out. I've watched UMBC 3 times this year. They're terrible. They turn the ball over and they play fast. You're going to beat Iowa by playing fast in Carver Hawkeye Arena? I don't think so. Any thoughts on Baylor tonight? Niall, I like Baylor. I know people like Duke, and Duke is always going to get the money. So fading Duke has usually been a pretty profitable play for me. I like that. In fact, if you want to be technical, let's look at Duke this year against the spread. Let's take a look at it. Yeah, Duke is just 5-5 against the spread. So again, not a team that is dominant against the spread in these situations. I like Baylor getting the points. Al's in the house. Great to see here. Seton Hall mucks this up. Trevor, it is possible that Seton Hall can muck it up, and I get it. It's a really big number. I do understand that. If you want to stay away, I think it's totally reasonable. First Big East game, laying a lot of points on the road. I have no problem with that. I'm going to take UConn, smaller amount, but I get it. If you want to be nervous, I think that's totally, totally reasonable. St. John's has been better lately too. Yeah, they had some big get-together at Patino's house where they brought pizzas in, the players. There's a lot of good chemistry going on with Patino's group right now. I think they beat Xavier on the road as well. Trevor likes the fact that they're 3-1 away from home, 1-2 for Duke. Yeah, Baylor into bust. So yeah, Michigan State got hot. It happens. And it's also a big reaction here, which is where I'm going with that. Justin Moore is out for Nova. Yes, it is. Is Kalkbrenner out? I have not heard that, Michael. And certainly if Kalkbrenner's out, I don't know if that would take me off Creighton, because what will happen is the line will drop. So if I hear that Kalkbrenner's out, it's a no play unless I see the line. If that line drops down to 5 or 4, I still think Creighton gets it. Would I lay 8 or 9 or 10 points without Kalkbrenner? No, but it's close because I'm not sure if he's going to be there. Cronin is unlikable. Yeah, Mike, I hate the fact what he said. He took a shot at Eric Dixon. He took a shot at Tyler Burton. I mean, Cronin is just struggling there. Very, very frustrated. I like Seattle. Trevor, you know what it is? I don't suffer with the recency bias. A lot of times you'll see recency bias and you'll see teams have a bad performance. I just shake that off because to me that provides opportunity. A lot of people like the Giants here against the Eagles in the NFL. I'm still taking the Eagles. I don't care about the loss here. And that is pretty much it. I think that's it. Okay, let's get to the last game and then we'll get out of here. Yeah, guys, suffering from a cold here, but we're getting better. We'll be better on Saturday. Very tough call here, but I'm taking Arizona -6.5 against Alabama. It's a lot of points. Arizona's the real deal. They struggled against Purdue, but they still are really good. And I think Alabama is not quite ready to win a game of this magnitude. It is in Phoenix. I like that Alabama was tough. They have good pieces. They can shoot threes, but this is a pick on Arizona. Is Arizona overrated because of what happened earlier this year? And is the loss to Purdue going to linger? Or is Arizona really one of the elite teams in college basketball and they're going to bounce back in a big way here against Alabama? That is the question you have to decide. I am going with the former. I like Arizona. Anytime you're betting on Caleb Love, it's a real question mark, but they beat Duke away by 5 in Cameron Indoor. They beat Michigan State by 6. Michigan, they played very well in that game. They blew the doors off of Wisconsin at home. And no, this game is not home. It is in a semi-home game. But Alabama coming off Purdue, coming off Creighton. Now they have Arizona. This is a rough one. This is a rough stretch. So maybe they get up for this. I just think Arizona will put them away eventually. And by the way, spoiler alert, Saturday we'll have Justin Perry on. I love Arizona against Florida Atlantic. Dear Lord, if Florida Atlantic doesn't play defense against Arizona, they could score 100 points. As always, folks, thank you so much. Let's get back to the window. Let's get back on the good side. Very excited here. The college basketball show is growing, and I love that. It's all because of you guys supporting along the way. We'll be back on Saturday, 10:30. We get you that nice early spot there. Justin Perry will be on. We will go through his picks as well as mine. Big Saturday, folks. Big things coming up. Happy New Year. Happy holidays as well. Let's get to the window.